If you're looking for a Nissan Leaf, it's time to think bigger. This is the Nissan Ariya. It's the replacement. It's larger, not only with a larger battery and much greater range, way more technology than Nissan has ever offered in any of its cars. Unique features on the interior, a whole lot of surprises actually. This one's just over 60 grand, and before you think that's too much, well, I got a lot in store for you today. Nissan was the first mainstream brand to go electric. The 2011 Nissan Leaf couldn't drive any better than EVs did in the 90s, but it came with technology other brands wouldn't try out for years, and it was the first EV to go on sale nationwide. The Ariya is the Leaf's successor, and yet it's something entirely different. This is an electric Nissan that's grown in size and in maturity. The Ariya comes standard with front-wheel drive, so you cannot get a frunk. There's a motor underneath there, but you do get a glowing Nissan badge that announces to everyone that this has either a 63 kilowatt-hour or an 87 kilowatt-hour battery. So the range can be anywhere from 214 to 304 miles. That 304-mile range is only on a very specific trim. It's the Venture Plus front-wheel drive with the longest range battery. That model also has the least amount of horsepower. Sorry, that number's just okay, but remember that this car is 5,000 pounds. EVs are extraordinarily heavy, so despite the massive power and torque that you're seeing here, very nice, especially on this trim, it's gonna be just enough to get it to 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Fast, but not the fastest. Because of the larger wheels and tires and all the extra power, this Ariya gets the least efficiency in the lineup. Now you can get better ones, but they're not gonna be better than the Tesla Model Y. So that's up for grabs. But what's not is 130 kilowatt DC fast charging. Finally, after all these years, Nissan has abandoned the old CHAdeMO standard that no one was really using, only some of the Japanese manufacturers were. Now they're using CCS, and who knows, in a few years they may all switch to the new Tesla supercharger system like GM and Ford are now doing, but that's in the future. For now, 130 kilowatts is good, but it's definitely not class leading. Other EVs are doing well over 200 kilowatts, so you will sit at a fast charger for longer, but Nissan does claim that you can recharge the battery from 10 to 80 in about 40 minutes. These days, most electric vehicles are driving the same. No matter what kind of car you're buying, they're all pulling from the same suppliers for batteries. The motors aren't really too different unless you're getting a Rimac or some other hypercar at that level, a Porsche Taycan. But this is actually going to be a compliment. The Nissan Ariya feels a lot like the Mercedes EQS SUV, which retails for more than double the price. That's because it's very quiet, the way it's delivering the power, nice and linear, smooth, everything that you would expect an EV to do, but it also has the power to match. It has everything you'd expect. It's quiet, it's smooth, you don't hear anything. The steering is pretty light. It's an easy car to drive. How could it not be? There's no gears, there's no interruption. There's no adjustable brake regen, there's only one. It's called E-step. And when you press it, the deceleration is pretty mild. So much so that you do have to put your foot down on the brake pedal to come to a stop. So if you're used to EVs that do the stopping for you, this one acts a little bit differently, more like a traditional ICE car. And like every other EV, when you put your right foot down, you get a nice jolt. It accelerates nice and quickly, it does. Nothing earth-shattering, not that it needs to be. Not every EV needs to be a performance machine. That's, I think, a misconception that's out there. This one's just smooth in how it gets delivered, but you're not going to be thinking that this is going to be a really fun, sporty drive, even in the sport mode. Initially, under straight line acceleration, the sportiness just seems, average. But this E-Force all-wheel drive, that's Nissan's name for its electric all-wheel drive, they say it's adapted from the Atessa ETS Pro system in those early Nissan GTRs. That's what they say this is the next evolution of. So you have very precise, independent motor control of the torque, and that's true in a lot of EVs, but here, Nissan actually will put more bias toward the rear when you're under braking, and that's supposed to reduce the dive effect and the kind of seesaw effect you get in a lot of EVs because there's so much torque being transferred that it doesn't tend to be as smooth, especially if the driver is like me and likes to really kick it. So this system will prevent some of that from happening, and it also does act to an extent like a torque vectoring system. Not truly a Nissan GTR, obviously. I think they could kick it up a few notches. Maybe they could add a third motor in here. I don't think Nissan really intends to do that, not for a mass market EV, but it is nice to know that while they were engineering it, they were thinking about how to keep all these four wheels engaged and keep the driver more engaged. Steering is actually better than I expected. I probably should have expected it because the steering on all new Nissans has improved by a lot. You get better on-center feel, some decent feedback, but not a lot. This is still a very isolated car as it's meant to be. You can have an okay time in the Ariya, even though I know it's planted, pretty secure, pretty wide tires. These are 20 inches, over 255 millimeters in width, so it's definitely got the traction. It's not exactly meant to be fun. I think at this price, I would expect to have a little bit more added onto that. I want some more performance. I just want to feel like I'm kind of getting a kick in the pants. When I'm in the Kia EV6, man, that car is tuned almost to oversteer. I don't think that's necessarily a great idea for a family car, but just the way that car, when you put it in the right driving mode, feels really good. It really does. I was expecting a little bit more of that from Nissan, but maybe in future models and software updates, they'll be able to maybe carve a little bit more power and excitement, especially out of this all-wheel drive system. But as a basic setup, I think they have it done pretty well. On a 100-mile highway trip, the Ariya consumed about 40% of its battery, and the range indicator was only off by about 28 miles. That might seem like a lot, but it's better than in other EVs, and certainly better than the old Leaf. In summertime testing in the mid-70s, I could only get up to 73 kilowatts of maximum power. That power varies depending on the charge station and any host of thousands of variables, it seems, that affect EVs. And it's very annoying to say that, but it's inconsistent across testing no matter where you go. But that was my number. The Ariya is a relatively large car. Looks like a Rogue in some instances, but then it looks like nothing else that Nissan is making. It certainly is more streamlined than the old Leaf was. In every way, it's larger, it's wider, and it just looks more imposing on the road. Check out the front. Solid black grills are very popular today on EVs, and Nissan has its own texture. It's called Kumiko wood patterns. That's what they use in Japan to put wood together by pressure, not by nails or glue. You don't really notice it, but it's kind of an interesting pattern. You'll find different motifs throughout the interior inspired by Japanese design. This model is the Platinum Plus, and it has the 20-inch wheels. They look like beautiful big blades. I love how they look, really set off against these polished black fenders. The whole car does keep up the other Nissan V motif, that's what they call it. So you get the LEDs that kind of direct around the headlights. You get the parking sensors that are nicely integrated, also in polished black. I think this car looks pretty good. Considering it's tall and it has to be kind of like an SUV, kind of like a hatchback, it fits the bill. It doesn't look dorky, it looks pretty handsome, especially like the two-tone paint. That is an option if you get that black roof. This red is actually not available in the Nissan configurator. It will be soon because I think this is definitely the color to have. And inside, wait till you see what that looks like. Curved roofs are a big trend in the SUV market. Makes you feel like you have a coupe when you really don't. But back here, it's actually pretty nice. There's two openings on this large spoiler. Reminds me of that on the Kia EV6. A little extra aero, a little extra downforce for when you're passing people at $150. No, not exactly. It's a styling exercise, but it does look good. It's a short tail, nice creases, more polished black trim that'll probably get smudged and dirty, but it does look good when it's clean, so keep it that way. And behind here, not a ton of cargo space. Behind the seats is about as much space as you'll find in a little Nissan Kicks. 23 cubic feet, and when they're folded, 60 cubic feet. That's way below what a Nissan Rogue can swallow. And if you get the dual motor model, all the nice under tray storage you can't access. The old American cars with their bench seats seems to be back in style with battery electric cars. Look at all this extra space. Only problem is that a third person can't sit here, but the same principle remains. All this extra floor space. Now in here, this is kind of cool. That moves for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but it is interesting. This flips up, wireless charger. Underneath here, there's not actually any more room. So it's a giant moving powered It's not just an armrest, it's for the shifter, it's for all these touch-sensitive buttons that adjust the drive modes. It's for this powered bank teller drawer that comes out here. Very convenient when you want to make a nice deposit. And if you don't want to sit next to somebody, that's why this is here. There's a reason why there are boundaries between two people. Gotta respect them. Jokes aside, this interior looks and feels like no other Nissan. A lot of the switchgear feels so much more upscale, everything from the window switches to the shifter to even the volume knobs. The bronze-colored accents on the air vents, and this blue suede-like cloth all over the dash. It's looking like a BMW iX, only much better looking. And this trim, no, it's not real wood, but just like the BMW, it has touch-capacitive backlit icons that control a lot of functions. In this Nissan, you're not feeling like you're in an economy car. Not at all. Lots of electric cars have lots of space in the back seat, but this one particularly more so. A nice flat floor, this console, which is all the way back now, can be powered forward for more space for this center passenger. So it's not so bad being a center passenger here because there's nothing getting in the way. Heated rear seats on this Platinum Plus model, nice stitching. It just feels just as comfortable back here as it does in the front. Nissan has revamped their infotainment system with new graphics, new tiles. It works so much better than before because you can actually use the entire screen. There's a row of icons over here that you can also swap out. It's very customizable, where everything before felt fixed and it was clunkier to use. For example, the climate control, I can go into the climate. I can also adjust it from the home screen or any other screen here. And I can go down to these touch-sensitive controls in this fake wood. The fake wood looks pretty nice, by the way. And the seats are heated and cooled, will automatically sync with the temperature. A lot of cool stuff here. When you go into the EV mode, Nissan has finally changed the radius map where it was only a circle. It would tell you that you couldn't drive into Long Island Sound or Cape Cod. Well, obviously you can't have electric range out there. Now it's overlaying the actual distance you can travel on the land. So that makes it much easier to find where you need to drive to find the next charging station. The cameras also improved, certainly in image quality. It's nice that you can see a version of the right-hand side of the car. Helpful, although I'd like it on the left side for car washes. That always helps. Do not want to scrape these 20-inch wheels. And there's also Alexa, Google search, and an AI assistant called Hey Nissan.
Say a command.
And that works pretty well too.
Canceling voice recognition.
The digital instrument panel has a lot of information, especially when you enter full screen. Because this way, you can see full screen maps, which also duplicate what's on the main screen and the head-up display, which is very sharp, so it's pretty much impossible to miss a turn. And when you have ProPilot Assist on, you can see other cars coming in the lane right behind you, road curves, all of that. It makes driving so much easier, and so is adjusting settings. You can see exactly what's being changed. This big screen, yeah, it works really well, and there's more customization than a lot of other cars. The 2023 Nissan Ariya starts at $43,190. The Platinum Plus E-Force I tested is fully loaded at $62,220 with Destination. It competes against other EVs like the Kia EV6, Hyundai Ioniq 5, and even some luxury vehicles, believe it or not, like the Genesis electrified GV70. It's becoming a crowded market, and the Ariya is looking like a bright spot. It may be hard to believe, but Nissan made an electric car just over 10 years ago that could barely drive 100 miles on a charge. It was very compromised, but the Leaf mattered because it brought us to this, the Ariya. And I think they've done a pretty good job. The interior, the technology, this is putting Nissan on another level that it's never had before. I do think that at 60 grand, I'm expecting some more performance because this is now a near luxury car. And let's be real, you could buy 2 Nissan Rogues for the price of this car. So this one is still for the more affluent buyers out there who want to splurge and be one of the first adopters. It's not perfect, but I gotta say, for a company that really pioneered EVs from the start, I'm pretty impressed. And what do you think? Well, subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel because we're gonna have more reviews for cars you're looking for. Go to cargurus.com and we'll see you next time.